Welcome back to our channel. This is the part 2 of I'm Not That Kind of Talent recap. You can watch the part 1 in this channel. I put the link on the description below. Dion found himself caught in the grips of a haunting dream, a flashback to the 8-year battle fought in the name of the Empire. The vivid recollection depicted a place soaked in blood, with the vanguard on the front lines sacrificing themselves. But Dion couldn't help but feel that these soldiers were nothing more than meat shields, forsaken by the very empire they fought for. It was a relentless nightmare, a vision of sheer hell. As Dion's dream portrayed the Empire's soldiers locked in a fierce battle against the demonic forces, his thoughts during the dream revealed his inner turmoil. He scoffed at the idea of fighting for the Empire, seeing it as a cruel joke. He had no desire to be a pawn in their game, no intention of sacrificing himself for an empire that had condemned him to this living nightmare. In his heart, he had only one purpose: to do everything in his power to survive and defy the Empire's wishes. Revenge was his ultimate goal, a means of taking back control over his destiny. Suddenly, Dion was jolted awake. He found himself seated in his own room, bathed in the soft, reassuring glow of reality. The dream had been harrowing, a haunting reminder of his past, but now he was safely in the present, determined to forge his own path and reclaim his agency in this tumultuous world. Dion slowly returned to consciousness, greeted by Ed's voice asking if he was awake. Ben was also present, and he mentioned that Dion had been asleep for the entire day. Dion learned that they had managed to complete his treatment while he was asleep but had been worried when he had returned covered in blood. Confused and disoriented, Dion asked about the mission and when he had arrived here. He had no recollection of what had transpired. Ed informed him that the demonic monster subjugation had been successful, with the monsters fleeing in fear. They had returned to the Demon King's castle to treat him after he had collapsed. Dion was surprised by the news and expressed his apologies for not being stronger. However, Ben sensed something was amiss. Dion seemed to be suffering from temporary amnesia due to his severe injury. Ben explained that Dion had been struck down by a demonic beast but had quickly gotten back up, so they hadn't thought much of it. Dion struggled to make sense of the situation. He began to remember fragments of the fight and realized he must have gotten drunk and caused trouble. However, he thought his condition was due to excessive drinking rather than an injury. Ben was amazed by the report that the Zero Corps had completed their mission without a single casualty, especially given the number of monsters they had faced. Dion insisted that he hadn't done anything, but Ben was quick to praise him for his humility. Inwardly, Dion couldn't fathom how he could have defeated so many monsters. He apologized to Ed, feeling like he had been a burden. Ed, blushing with admiration, assured Dion that he had been amazing and had defeated countless monsters at the front lines, setting a remarkable example as a commander. Ben, however, voiced his concern that Dion had overexerted himself, given the condition of his weak body. They advised him to be careful in the future. Ed, fired up with determination, reassured Dion that they existed for his sake and that they would become stronger so that Dion could trust and rely on them without worry. As Dion tried to make sense of the situation and wished for a moment of solitude, Dion found himself in a rather awkward situation as the 4th Commander Adelia and the 3rd Commander Isilde entered the room, apparently having heard that he was awake. Isilde spoke in a voice that Dion thought was too loud, prompting Adelia to remark that he was even louder. She playfully asked Isilde if he had followed her because he wanted to play, but Isilde quickly clarified that he had come to pay his respects to the Zero Corps commander. Dion couldn't help but wonder why they were there in the first place and if they were close enough to him to pay him a visit. The 1st Corps commander Jakar intervened, scolding both Adelia and Isilde for not realizing that Dion was uncomfortable with their presence, and urging them to greet him quietly and leave. Frustrated and wanting to be rid of them, Dion threw a tantrum, demanding that they all get lost. He thought to himself about how he could possibly get rid of these unwanted guests. Isilde realized that he had been too careless in approaching Dion, given that he had just returned from a mission, and he apologized. Jakar urged everyone not to fight in the Demon King's castle, warning them not to kill each other. Dion was taken aback by the mention of killing and thought it was a ludicrous thing to say, considering his own weakness. However, he suddenly had an idea. He realized that if he could teach them about mercy, they might spare his life even after discovering his true weakness. Isilde offered a sincere apology, and Dion acknowledged his anger but emphasized that there was no reason for violence just because he was angry. He explained the concept of mercy, urging them to show it even to those who lied or were weaker. Dion hoped this lesson would help him in the future. However, his speech was interrupted by the atmosphere in the room, which became tense as if he had scolded them. They appeared scared, and Dion was perplexed, thinking he had delivered the message nicely. J-Car changed the topic, congratulating Dion on the successful completion of his mission and remarking that he must have worked really hard. Idalia chimed in, sweetly sharing that there was much talk about him all over the castle, with rumors suggesting that he had single-handedly wiped out half the monsters. Dion was shocked by the exaggerated rumor and worried that he would end up claiming achievements he hadn't earned. Ed was proud and happy, while Isilde mentioned that he had heard tales of Dion's heroism and came to ask a favor. Dion couldn't help but wonder what favor Isilde might request. Isilde explained that it wasn't a big deal, he simply wanted to spar with Dion once he fully recovered. Dion's expression turned from shock to fear at the prospect of sparring with a powerful demon like Isilde, especially as the third corps commander who oversaw elite guards protecting the Demon King. He realized he was in for a challenging situation. Dion had asked Isilde if he meant sparring with him, still trying to process the unexpected request. Isilde confirmed that he had been hearing a lot about Dion's greatness and wanted to learn from him, which surprised Dion even more. J-Car, the first corps commander, chimed in, finding the idea of a spar with Dion intriguing. J-Car pondered, come to think of it, the Zero Corps commander has never engaged in a spar since taking on the role. I also had a curiosity about his skill level. I wonder if he'll agree to this proposal. Idalia chimed in excitedly, oh my! To witness Sir Arut in a sparring match. You do realize that the Fourth Corps deals with information, right? I'll make sure to gather as many spectators as possible. Isilde says, he doesn't care if they come, just make sure they don't interfere. Dion, however, couldn't help but think, he can't even say no. Why are they making decisions on their own? How does this even make sense? Inwardly, he feared, I'm going to be obliterated into a million pieces with a single strike of his hand. When Dion replied, he stammered, I think it will be quite difficult to accept a spar. I'm still feeling the aftermath of the battle with the monsters, and I think my strength. I mean, I could die. No, I mean, I might actually die. Dion couldn't help but berate himself, thinking, what am I even saying right now? Isilde had her suspicions, thinking, is he trying to avoid the fight? But why? Dion's inner thoughts continued, wow, look at those suspicious eyes. I guess I can't just get by with futile excuses. Amazing. J-Car finally spoke, acknowledging Dion's reluctance, even against a commander, you have such confidence. He was, of course, referring to Dion. J-Car had always wondered why the Zero Corps commander refrained from sparring, but now he understood. The Zero Corps commander was actually concerned about his opponent, he noted. Dion and Isilde were both taken aback by J-Car's insights, and Isilde gave Dion an uncertain look, considering the implications of his confidence. Exactly, J-Car continued, it's for your sake that he rejected your sparring proposal. Moreover, it hasn't been long since his last battle, so I'm sure it'll be harder to control his temper during the spar. Isilde thought that Dion's confidence might indicate that the spar wouldn't end until one of them was dead. He realized that Dion had an immense belief in his own victory, a level of confidence that he had never seen before. This was the sheer talent that the Demon King had acknowledged. Isilde then spoke to Dion, acknowledging that he couldn't guarantee his victory and couldn't say for certain that he wouldn't die in the process. He admitted that he didn't have the heart to fight Dion to the death, expressing gratitude for Dion's consideration. Dion found himself in a situation where his initial reluctance had led to a deep discussion about the potential consequences of a spar. As everyone contemplated the implications, the atmosphere in the room remained tense and uncertain. Dion found himself bewildered by the turn of events, unsure of why these hostile commanders were treating him with such respect. Meanwhile, Ed, one of his aides, was impressed by how Dion had managed to garner respect from the commanders. Dion couldn't comprehend the situation fully, but he secretly hoped that he could somehow avoid the spar. Isilde, however, hadn't given up entirely. He expressed his determination to request a spar again once he felt confident enough not to die in the process. Dion was shocked by Isild's persistence, thinking to himself that Isild should just give up already. Isild's enthusiasm was palpable as he left, stating that he felt invigorated by making a promise with Dion and was off to train. Isild's departure left everyone in the room, and Dion was still struggling to make sense of it all. Jakar commented that Isild had no ambition to do anything previously, but Dion's influence had sparked a newfound determination in him, which Jakar considered a positive development. Idalia, on the other hand, found Isild quite loud in his newfound enthusiasm. Dion, feeling overwhelmed by the situation, remained bent over, trying to process everything. Suddenly, Dion touched his forehead, seems like his head is aching, and his fever was rising again. Ed apologized to the two commanders for his condition and asked the two commanders to let him rest. The two commanders offered their concern and hoped for Dion's swift recovery. Ben, his aide, provided him with a glass of water as Dion contemplated his desire to escape from the demon realm. Before Jakar left, he expressed his eagerness to spar with Dion if he recovered and felt up to the challenge after sparring with the third commander. Dion was barely holding on, and after Jakar's sentences, he couldn't take it anymore and he almost collapsed. The scene shifted to Dion wandering somewhere in the Demon King's castle. Dion was overwhelmed by the constant demands and attention he was receiving from various demons in the Demon King's castle. The idea of seeing the members of the Zero Corps getting moderate exercise and fulfilling promises with the commanders had pushed him to his limits. In a moment of frustration, he kicked a rock in his path while muttering, "Please just leave me alone." Unfortunately, the rock hit a demon's head, leading to an unexpected encounter. The three demons was angry and approached him. But when they realize it's the commander, they greeted him as Demon Arut, the Zero Corps commander, and apologized for causing a disturbance. Dion was confused, not realizing that the demons were referring to the incident with the rock. The demons explained that they were teaching the incubus a lesson and promised not to disturb him again. They said their farewell to the commander, thinking Dion was not in a good mood. Dion considered it fortunate that the demons had left on their own, leaving him to contemplate what he should do with the young one. He was bothered by the fact that he had looked at a demon weaker than himself for the first time. The incubus was terrified as Dion was looking at her, and she knows that he is normally quiet and is known to be brutal when he's angry. The incubus was sure that her presence disturbs Dion. She shed tears thinking that she was going to die. However, to her surprise, Dion reached out his hand to help her stand and reassured her that the demons were gone. The incubus couldn't believe that Dion was treating her with genuine kindness. She mentioned being an incubus and asked if Dion found it disgusting to be physically in contact with her. Dion countered this by asking if he, being human, was disgusting. He assured her that he didn't find her disgusting either, emphasizing their shared struggle to survive in the tough demon realm. The incubus was touched by Dion's kindness and expressed her joy at being treated this way. However, she couldn't help but bring up a bothersome matter, mentioning that she'd love to repay him and asking if he had some time to spare. Dion found himself unable to respond, feeling that he had gotten involved in something quite troublesome. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the Demon King, who had come to visit Dion in his room but found it empty. Hien, the castle gardener. She had insisted on repaying his kindness by giving him a tour of the garden within the Demon King's castle. Dion, not having much else to do at the moment, reluctantly agreed. As they walked through the castle, Dion couldn't help but wonder about the existence of a garden in such a dark and foreboding place. The very idea seemed contradictory to the demon realm's reputation. Hien, on the other hand, seemed genuinely excited to show him around. Upon reaching the garden, Dion was pleasantly surprised. The entrance was adorned with beautiful flowers, and the air was filled with the refreshing scent of greenery. It was a stark contrast to the rest of the castle, and he couldn't help but smile. However, Dion's brief moment of tranquility was interrupted when one of the demon plants in the garden lunged at him, attempting to bite. With quick reflexes, he dodged the plant's attack, much to Hien's chagrin. Hien scolded the plant, making her demeanor suddenly shift from cheerful to stern. She reassured Dion and apologized for the plant's behavior. Dion couldn't help but feel that there was something peculiar about Hien, beyond her role as a gardener. As Dion ventured further into the garden, he realized that the serene entrance was deceptive. The garden was teeming with demon plants, some of which seemed rather aggressive. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable, he decided he needed to leave. Dion quickly made up an excuse about needing to visit the training grounds to see the Zero Core, emphasizing his urgency. Hien appeared disappointed but understood. She even mentioned she had wanted to show him even more intriguing plants deeper within the garden. Dion hurriedly left the garden, relieved to be away from the peculiar and dangerous demon plants. He thought to himself that the safety of his room was preferable to the hazards of the castle's garden. Meanwhile, Hien, left alone with her plants, conversed with them. She expressed her wish to see Dion again and decided to give him a special gift from the garden. She had noticed his fondness for plants and hoped this gesture would bring them closer. As Dion walked away from the garden, he reflected on his experiences. He couldn't escape the feeling that there was something unusual about the Demon King's castle, and he reluctantly admitted that it might not be such a bad idea to visit the Zero Core members, especially after the incident during his drunken episode. The trauma he had recently faced made him more willing to face his responsibilities and see those who were working hard for him. When Dion arrived at the training grounds, he noticed that it was empty. Instead of leaving, he decided to find a spot to sit and wait. He believed that avoiding his duty to visit the Zero Core wouldn't be productive, and he was curious about their strength. As he looked around, he spotted a wooden sword on the side, likely used by the soldiers during their training. During the recent monster subjugation mission, Dion had been out of his mind and couldn't recall anything. He thought this was a good opportunity to test his own physical capabilities. He picked up the wooden sword, but to his surprise, it was too heavy for him to lift. It made him realize that on the battlefield, he could barely handle a wooden sword, let alone an iron one, due to the cursed strength that afflicted him. As a result, he had always relied on using a dagger. His thoughts were interrupted when the Zero Core soldiers arrived. They were surprised to see him holding the wooden sword, and Dion hoped they hadn't witnessed his struggle with it. However, they greeted him warmly and expressed their concern for his well-being. They praised his performance during their last mission. Dion interrupted their praise, reassuring them that he was fine and asking them to relax. However, the soldiers continued to murmur among themselves, noting that he still appeared tired and expressing their worry for him. They vowed to protect their commander no matter what. Dion couldn't understand why they were looking at him with such pity. He decided to get to the point and explained that he had planned to visit right after their mission but was unable to due to various circumstances. He apologized to his soldiers for the delay and praised their excellent work during the mission. Dion intended to offer encouragement and watch them train afterward. Dion's turn around and says to the soldier that he just came by to say that, and he added he's pretty sure they would have done an outstanding job even if he didn't say anything as he began to walk away. One of the soldiers suddenly drew a sword and dashed toward him. Dion lost his balance and slipped, fearing that he would humiliate himself by falling. To avoid falling, he forced himself to kneel, just as the soldier swung his sword where Dion's head had been moments before. Both Dion and the soldier were surprised by this near-miss attack. The Zero Core soldier expressed concern for Dion's well-being, asking if he was okay. Dion was bewildered by the sudden attack and thought about running away, deeming the situation dangerous. As he attempted to escape, he accidentally elbowed the attacker in the face, causing the man's nose to bleed. Dion was wondering what is happening. As the man fell down, he saw the face of his attacker. It was at this moment that Dion realized the attacker was a human. Dion couldn't comprehend how a human had managed to infiltrate the Demon King's castle. The soldiers called out to check if he was okay, and he realized that if these soldiers didn't recognize him, the intruder must indeed be an outsider. The intruder expressed his intention to flee, but Dion's demeanor suddenly changed. He lifted the wooden sword and struck the intruder with a menacing look in his eyes. Dion instructed the soldiers to report the incident to the Demon King and have the intruder locked up. Without further ado, Dion left the training grounds. The Zero Core soldiers were left feeling disheartened, thinking that Sir Arut seemed disappointed in them. Some soldiers believed that they had allowed the intruder to infiltrate the training grounds, but it was Dion who had captured the culprit. One soldier recalled what was happened. All of his movements were so fluid and quick. Sir Arut, who seemed to be leisurely taking a stroll, dodged the ambush with unbelievable speed, and even struck back at him. Plus, he caught the intruder while was trying to run away, and wrapped up the situation in an instant. The stature of the Zero Corps commander is so high, that his presence overshadows the Zero Corps. I had trained even harder to be acknowledged. But the commander's skill level was beyond my expectations, and we haven't even reached the tip of his toes. One soldier felt inspired and fired up, declaring that there was no time to waste. They decided that they would train tirelessly from that day forward to become of greater assistance to Sir Arut. They were determined to push their limits and reach the level of their commander's prowess. The Zero Corps soldiers were ready to start their intensive training without rest, all with the goal of being a valuable asset to Sir Arut. The scene shifted back to Dion, where he realized that his wrist was hurting from overexertion while handling the wooden sword. Despite successfully handling the troublesome situation with the intruder, he decided it was time to rest. He lay down on his bed, gazing at the open curtains, and he sleeps. As he woke up, he says that he sleeps very well. He wondered why the Demon King was there and asked if he was dreaming. The king assured him it wasn't a dream, and Dion became alert, asking why the Demon King had come. The Demon King requested Dion's presence, and he remembered that this is about that prisoner, and they began to walk towards the underground dungeon. Dion questioned the choice of location, wondering why the king had brought him there. As they arrived at the dungeon, a soldier saluted them, and Dion grew increasingly puzzled. The king ordered the soldier to open the door, revealing the human intruder in shackles. The sight was chaotic, with blood and 2 other prisoners on the ground. The king drew Dion's attention to the captured intruder, asking if he seemed familiar. Dion was confused, and the prisoner taunted them. The king emphasized the intruder's incredible power to strike down a demon despite being a human, and revealed the prisoner's face to Dion, who suddenly realized it was a hero. Dion understood the dire choice a hero faced when confronting the Demon King: either self-destruct to harm the Demon King or disperse their power as a fragment of a hero. Dion knew that the Empire collected those with hero fragments, but officially recognized only those who achieved significant accomplishments as true heroes. The king lamented the situation and called the intruder a hero candidate or remnant of a hero. Dion agreed that sending a hero or hero candidate to the demon realm was unusual and wondered about the emperor's intentions. He then requested some private time with the prisoner, and the king agreed. As Dion faced the prisoner alone, they exchanged words. The prisoner accused Dion of being a traitor, while Dion questioned what sins the prisoner had committed to be abandoned by the emperor. Dion hinted that the emperor might have had other motives for sending the prisoner to the dangerous demon realm. The conversation left the prisoner bewildered and doubting the emperor's loyalty. Before leaving the prison, Dion warned the prisoner to think carefully about his circumstances. As he walked away, the prisoner vowed to kill the emperor for betraying him. Returning to the king, Dion expressed his disappointment with the superficial loyalty of the prisoner and suggested they kill him. The king agreed and asked for a favor in return, to which Dion consented. The Demon King says that he should give him a favor in return. Dion wondered what he wants. The king says that the First Corps has requested an immediate assistance. They said that it wasn't a hero candidate, but a real hero that is participating in the battle. He says that as Dion's already know that demon and heroes don't get along well. Dion's thought in his mind: if the hero that appeared on the front lines isn't some fragment hero that's been used and cast aside by the emperor, like their prisoner, but a real hero, then the average demons wouldn't be a match at all. The king says, and one more thing, you're curious too, of the intention of the emperor who had sent a fragment along with the real hero, so he asked Dion to take good care of the mission as well. Dion was not answering, he was keeping quiet, and suddenly his seriousness has changed, seems like he just woke up. He asked himself, when did I get here? The king says that Dion needs to get ready to depart, so let's head up, he says. Dion was confused where he is, and he doesn't know where he is going. The scene shifts outside the Demon King's castle. Ed is waiting for Dion, and he ready the chariot for Dion. Dion standing upstairs thinking, I remember following the Demon King to the underground dungeon. But as I regain consciousness in going off to some insanely scary place again. I keep blacking out, and every time I do, I feel like I'm going insane. Is this a disease? What I can somewhat recall is the intruder will die. The Demon King ordered me to go to front lines. And the appearance of the new hero. Ed approached him and says, "Sir Arut, all preparation for departure are complete." He replies that he understood. He walked to go inside the carriage. While walking he was thinking, since I'm going to go, I might as well check out the face of this new hero to comfort myself. After all, it is true that I'm curious. As Ed observing Dion, he thought, I know he quenched his immediate thirst by going on the monster subjugation trip, but I'm sure it wasn't satisfying enough for Sir Arut. I hear things are quite dire on the front lines. But looking at Sir Arut's face, he looks happy as if he's going on a vacation. But suddenly the 11 Corps Commander Ririnal was flying interrupted their thought as she called Sir Arut. She says that she really miss him. And she landed on the ground. Dion asked him what is he doing here. Dion thought, despite her cute appearance, she possesses the most demonic energy. Second only to Demon King. I'm not going to be fooled by the appearance anymore. Ririnal says, I heard you were going to the front lines, so I wanted to give you this. She presented a brilliant pink necklace. Dion wondered why she giving it to him. And he thought it's a suspicious looking necklace. But why she giving it? Since it looks suspicious, he decided not to accept it. Ririnal explains, I cast a defensive spell on it so it will prevent you from dying at least once. It wasn't much, but I wanted to somehow be of help to you, Sir Arut. After Ririnal finishes her sentences, Sion immediately grabbed the necklace to her hand and thanking her. He tapped her head, and while looking at the necklace he was thinking, she's giving it to me, so I should obviously accept it. Why should there be a reason to reject a present? And suddenly he realizes that he let his guard down. Ririnal was so happy she was blushing. Dion stopped tapping her head, thinking, that lively moving thing, that ribbon. No, that tentacle is quite unpleasant, but Ririnal doesn't seem like she's unhappy, so that's a relief. But seems him scared him going to stop that. Ed vowed and thanked Ririnal. Ed says that he knows that Sir Arut is strong. He says, I was worried due to the aftermath, however I can now rest easy thanks to the necklace you give to him, Miss Ririnal. Ririnal replies to think of Sir Arut to such extent. You are such a great lieutenant, continue to serve Sir Arut with that attitude. Ed replies, leave it to me. While Dion at the back was annoyed. Ed then assists Dion to the carriage. They leave and Ririnal waving at them as they leave. Inside the carriage Dion was thinking, the aftermath I obtain it after killing T-Hero, huh? To be clear on this matter. I did not restrain a hero who was going to self-explode, nor did I absorb the self-explosion. At that time I was merely a comrade of the hero. A flashback scene was shown. Dion thinks, this is all left, we lost so many people on the way here. The hero called him Sir Hart. Please remain here, he asked the hero if he was serious, and he immediately replied yes. The hero explains that he will finish the battle along with the Empire troops. He says to Dion Hart that this is more than enough. Since this Demon King is known to be the strongest in history, there's no way to guarantee your survival, the hero says to Dion. He added, we also need someone to report the result of this battle to the Empire. I would like you to fulfill that role, Sir Hart, so please go back. There's also something you need to do right. The hero says, I know why such a previous hero such as yourself is coning along on this adventure. It's because you need a greater achievement to fulfill your wish, right? If you return with the result, it will be a great achievement. Anyways, if even the achievement you accomplished in a war weren't enough and you had to join this quest, just what did you request upon the Emperor? Did you by chance ask for an entire nation? When Dion was about to reply, the hero said his farewell and he will hear his answer when he go back. Dion was left in the forest while the hero and the troops was battling the Demon King and the Demon Army. While Dion was sitting waiting for the hero, he thought, I want to confirm, but I can't move my legs. I don't know if it's guilt, shame, or fear, or is it all three? The role of the comrade is to clear a path to reach the Demon King. But when I asked to remain, my first instinct was relief. God damn it, I want to live. No, I want to survive. Let's see the result of the battle at least. He stand up and wore his hood. He thought, if they won I will bring them back, if they lost I should go report it. It should be fine if I was looking out from far away. Dion gets out of the bushes and he looked from above the cliff. He saw the hero surrounded by the demon, and the Demon King was there also. He thought that it's already over, it's too overwhelming. The hero is bloody kneeling in front of the Demon King. The Demon King asked the hero for his last word. The hero smiled, and a dazzling light came out of his body. The light was brimming, it even reached Dion uphill. Dion thought that it was a self-destruct. Is this how it ends? I need to report this to the Empire. Suddenly a demon appeared from Dion's back and asked who he is. Dion was surprised. The demon says that this small fry was hiding. He swung his weapon to Dion and he thought it was his end. Did you enjoy the story? If so, please consider showing your support by liking and subscribing to my channel. Your encouragement keeps us going. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.